But Mr. Hooks, he didn't have, Polks had center posts, Mr. Hooks didn't. But Mr. Hooks wasn't as big as Polks either. But as kids, we would skate at both of them. We would skate at both of them. We would work all day in the cherry field, the bean field, the apple field, and make our little money, have our little jeans washed, and we'd get home and throw our clothes on it. We would go to either Polks or Hooks, whichever one was open at the time. Hooks stayed open mostly in the winter. He stayed open in the summer too, but Polks did most of the summer business. Mr. Hooks did most of the winter business.
And you got most of your money, you said, at the bean.
Bean field, cherry field, apple field, strawberry field, any kind of field work, we did it. We did it because that was the only income that the youngsters had. Black youngsters. We couldn't get no jobs downtown.
Okay.
We could not get no jobs downtown.
Now, why not? No, why not?
Because the prejudice of downtown.
Okay.
They, like I was said before, my folks, my mom and dad, they worked out of town and my grandfather raised us. And my mom and dad would send me and my brother, Jesse, money every weekend to spend.
Okay.
We go in the store and they'd be following us around, watching us like we was there to steal something. And we had money, you know.
Which store was those like, and what do we have down there?
It was Patty's Drugstore.
I heard him say Patty's back then.
Patty's Drugstore.
Okay.
And the Dime Store.
It was the Dime. Franklin, it wasn't Ben
No, it wasn't Ben Franklin.
Right.
It was 10, I can't name the name of it, but it was Dime Store, that store.
Okay.
And just most of the stores, you know, they look at us like, hey, you ain't got no money, you ain't got no business being here. But we had money.
You had money?
Yeah, we had money every weekend. My mom and dad made sure that me and my brother Jesse had some money to spend. But you couldn't tell it the way they looked at us when we went in the stores, you know.
Was it kind of anger, or did you feel kind of angry?
No, I didn't have sense enough to be angry at the time. I was so young, it didn't matter to me. You know, I was down there to get me some ice cream or something like that, and that's all that mattered to me. I didn't have sense enough. But now, if I went in there, they said something like that, I would have some words for them, you know. But that time, I was young and didn't have, you know, we didn't let it bother us.
Now, how did you get to get the money to the bean factory? Because that was far away, wasn't it?
Well, we would pick the beans. The farmer would take them to the factory.
Somebody would pick you up. You would have like a bus or something.
Yeah. Or well, my mother had a car, and when I got old enough to drive, I have a car, and I'd have most all the teenagers naturally in my car, and she would have the grown folks in her car, and she would get on. Why are you driving too fast? You slow that car down, and we would be having a ball.
Wow.
I had a 42 Chevy.
Okay.
That's when I started out with a 42 Chevy. Then
42 Chevy?
Yeah, then I got a 48 Oldsmobile. Actually, my first car was a 36 Chevy, a 1936 Chevy. I learned on the Model T. My mother taught me how to drive on the Model T.
You don't hear those names anymore.
No, well, I didn't know how to drive, but my mother really wasn't that good at it either. But she taught me how to drive, and then I graduated, and when I got money, I bought me a 36 Chevy, and then later on, I bought the 42 Chevy. They used to call it Hound Dog.
Wow.
All the guys, I'd pick up, a lot of the guys over at Bush Lake, like the Bookers, the Battles, we all ran together. None of them had a car, and I had a car.
You had a
and
car.
I'd pick them up, and we'd go to Idlewild in my car.
What about the gas? Who bought the gas?
Well, I don't remember who bought the gas. I probably bought the gas, but it didn't make no difference, you know. It didn't make no difference because gas wasn't that much at that time. No, I think it was about 14, 15 cents a gallon.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
They had these pumps at some station, with station right up north where, what's there now?
You talking about in the Weber? Okay, you got the Easy Mart, which is Bonnie Castle.
No, it's on the other side of the street, right there across from Skis.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It used to be Nelson had that property there.
Yes.
But at that time, it was a man named Harry Reese. He had a little grocery store there, and he had one of these pumps. You could go out there and pump your gas, and it'd go up in this big tube. And when you let it out, it'd show you how many gallons you get. That's what's coming down. And that's how we get the gas, you know. And we didn't have no problem getting gas because, like I said, it was like only 14, 15 cents a gallon then, you know.
Yes.
And we'd make that much in a day's time out of the cherry field, wherever we went.
Would that fill up the car?
Well, we didn't worry about being filled. We just wanted to get enough to get where we was going to get back.
Same thing as our days, too.
Yeah, we didn't worry about it, but and I did most of the driving the fellas back and forth to Ottawa and stuff. When we get through with our cherry pickers and everything, everybody go home and get dressed, put their little blue jeans on,
blue jeans on.
get their roller skates if they
Get
had
the roller
roller skates,
skates,
and go out to Ottawa and roller skate. But that was our life.
Were you a pretty good skater? Did you? Cause you skate backwards.
Yeah, yeah. I just stopped skating about 4 or 5 years ago.
Ooh, you're
Yeah.
still skating, huh?
Yeah, yeah. And I used to go every Sunday when I got out of church. My pastor didn't know where I was going when I leave church. He go roller skating. And I had this one little juvenile I would take with me. You probably heard it. He's the young boy that drowned.
Okay, yep.
Well, he used to go with me. I'd take it because I was his juvenile attendant.
Yes.
And I would take him roller skating with me, and I'd take him bowling with me. And every Sunday, me and him would go to the roller skate rink. What last Sunday, but this was after I got taking him out there. I was roller skating one Sunday, and I fell. I got up, and I fell again. I went and sat down, and I got up. And when I got up, I was shaking, so
Yeah.
I took the skates, my own skates.
Your skates.
Took them up there to the counter and left it. They ain't been back since.
Ooh,
Gave him my
hallelujah.
skate. This one man said, well, you should have kept your skates. I said, I was super skating. I didn't want no more part of skating.
You do get to a certain part.
Right,
where
yeah.
like
I said something is telling me it's time for you to quit.
Yes.
Because I was in my 70s then, you
Yes,
know.
yes.
And I said, well, something is telling me the time to quit. And I'm going to quit. I ain't going to go out there no more. And all the guys I skated with, they said, Myron, what happened? Because they knew I never felt like that
Yes,
before.
yes.
But like I say, when I fell that third time and I
That was
got
it.
up and I went and sat down and I got up to go back out there, I was shaking like a leaf. I said, I walked off, pulled them skates off, walked out of that place, and I ain't been back in there since.
So here it is. So okay. So you got the money. You know, y'all got money. That's how y'all got y'all little money from the paint factory. But it was something you said before that you had a job where they told you can get gas. They couldn't pay you something, or what was that at that time? You know, they.
Oh, that's when I moved to Ludington. That was back in
Okay.
that must have been in the 70s when I moved back to Ludington. When I
Okay.
moved to Ludington, not back to Ludington. I moved to Ludington, and I was staying over there. I had an apartment over there, and I let me see, how was I working when I moved over there?
Okay.
Yeah, evidently I was working. I can't remember where I was working at the time when I moved over there, but evidently I was working, and I had my youngest son with me.
Okay.
And I was looking for a job, and my brother Rochester told me I was drawing Social Security, and I had a job offered to me, but it was out of town, and I would have to leave my son there. But his mother was working at Dow right down the street from my work, and I told her, I said, well, you can stay here and watch him while I was
Yes.
working.
Yes.
But she didn't agree to that, so I said, well, I can't leave him here and take this job out of town, because it was out of town. It was a good job with a contract I was
Yes.
going to do. We couldn't doing construction work. So I stayed around, and my brother Rochester told me about this driving training they was giving people. They were paying people to go to school, and they would give them room and board in Chicago, and they would pay for your class and everything, and then you wouldn't have nothing to do but go to school and eat and sleep, you know, because they was paying for your food, your room and board.
Yes.
So he said, well, you ought to try that. So I went to Grand Rapids, and I talked to the lady, and she said, yeah. So she set me up with that. So I went to Chicago, and I took driving training down there and got my certification. It's still up to my house up there in Weber on the wall, and show where I passed the test and everything. But when I came back, I couldn't find a job nowhere. I went from Ludington, I went from all over, all the way up to Traverse City.
All the way up to Traverse City.
And everybody would tell me, well, this is a family-owned business. We are not hiring.
Even though you had your certification.
Even though I had my certification. So then I came back, and I went to this garbage company in Ludington, and he said, yeah. He said, I'll keep you in mind. And one day I was out on 31, south of Ludington there, and I was fishing, and he came by there one day, and he stopped, and he saw me. He said, ain't you the fella that came down there and had a CDL license and everything, you know, on the drive? I said, yeah. He said, well, come down. I come down to the garbage company. He told me how to get it. And it wasn't that far from where I lived at.
Yes.
So I went to the garbage company and he hired me. But he hired me for a certain price. But a couple of times when it came to payday, he said, well, I'm sorry, I can't pay you what I wanted to pay you because the companies ran out of nows and they told me, no, they couldn't afford to pay you that much. He said, well, I told you got your certification and everything. He said, but they still say they couldn't pay you that much. So we'll have to let you go or you have to go for less than that. I said, well, I need a job because I didn't have a job and I had my son to take care.
Okay.
He said, well, I tell you what, I'll pay you X amount of dollars and you can have all the gasoline you want.
All the gasoline you want.
All your gasoline you want.
So what happened then? You was able to get much gasoline you want?
Yes, I was, because I had a boat, I had a truck, and I had a camper.
And you made sure it was all full.
I kept them all full.
That is good.
Yeah.
Did they have much? Now, what about the gas that was left?
They didn't have some a lot of times when they go that Monday morning to work. They didn't have gas to work. I had mine, so.
But you got paid some kind of way.
Yeah, I got paid. Yeah, he told me. This is what he told me. He said I could have all the gas and work. He didn't say how much I could have and how much I couldn't have. So I just took advantage and filled up my vehicles with it.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, it wasn't nothing bad, but you did what you was told to do.
I wasn't stealing. I was not stealing. I was told I could have this gas. I was not stealing. But yeah, I got all the gas I wanted. A lot of times I like to say Monday morning come, he get there, he go to the pump and gas. Well, we ain't got no gas. We got the gas, call the gas company to bring gas in because we ain't got no gas. But my vehicles would be full and ready to go anywhere I wanted to go.
I like that.
I had a pickup truck and I had a boat with a motor on it, a gasoline motor on it, and I had a van. And I kept them full, you know.
So they told me about when you was in school too, and there was Alan Turner. You remember Alan Turner?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. And what can you tell me about
Alan Turner and my sister is the only one that called me Crook. Because that was my nickname.
That was your nickname?
My dad gave me that nickname before I left Chicago. It was an old man that I can't think of his name. It used to be on Maxwell Street and I can't think of Morgan, I think.
Okay.
He had a little grocery store there.
Yes.
And I used to go over there and bum it out of candy and everything. He started calling me a crook.
That's why they got the name Crook.
Yeah, that's why I got my name Crook from. And Alan Turner and my sister, the only one called me that. And a couple of months ago, I went to the eye doctor at first, and I didn't realize before, when I had been there before, they asked me all these questions, and they asked me my nickname, and I called me Crook.
Okay.
And this lady came in and said, yeah, you Crook, ain't you? I said, where you get that name from? I said, I didn't put that on my application today. She said, no, I went back on your own application again. So now the girl, when I go to see her, that's what she called me, Crook.
Crook.
Yeah, but Alan Turner is my sister, and Lois is the only one after my dad now.
They're the only one to call you that?
Only one called me Crook, and Alan called me that once in a while now, Crook. But
that's in high school, and so you were in school together. And you were in school together. And what kind of teams did you have? I mean, what kind of sport? I mean, what you said you had a good basketball team.
You had a darn good basketball. I didn't play basketball.
Okay.
But I went out for track. I ran the mile in track because we had an interclass track meet there.
Okay.
And I took first place in the mile in interclass track meet in school.
Okay.
And they put me on the track team. But I wasn't no comparison to them guys that was on that track team, especially the boys from Buren. Them guys could run backwards and look at you and be way ahead.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Them Burns, it was the Burns, the Thomases.
Oh, I remember some of them, yes.
And can't think of that other young guy. I can't think of it. Robert Earl. Robert Earl, I can't think of his last name. And them boys could run backwards. But see, them boys, they learned how to run in a sand pit. So when they hit solid ground,
they gone.
They gone. They gone. Yeah, they took their training in the sand pit. I wasn't no match for none of them guys. They'd be running backwards looking at me and going faster than I could go forward.
You know, we had some Thomases in free soil.
That's all the same family.
All the same family.
Yeah, James Thomas is there. Yeah, in free soil. Matter of fact, Caroline Thomas.
Yep.
She was named Jane Thomas.
Yes.
They just took her ashes up there last week.
She was a Thomas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just took her ashes up there and buried them in the cemetery up
You know what? They told me so. Diane told me something about that. So they did with that. Yes.
Well, I